Kelly Ripa recently celebrated a big milestone on Live with Kelly and Mark. Around this time, she also recently spoke about how things weren't always easy on the show. She also shared something that inspired her to keep pushing forward. Ripa first joined Live back in 2000, officially becoming part of the show the following year, taking over for Kathy Lee Gifford. Sitting alongside a number of different hosts, she officially teamed up with her husband, Mark Consuelos, as co-hosts in 2023. Over the years, Ripa has also established herself through other ventures, such as acting. Prior to joining Live, she was known to many for her work on the soap opera All My Children. The daytime drama was also where she first met Consuelos, who also played her on-screen love interest. Recently, Ripa celebrated 25 years on the long-running talk show. Speaking with Variety, she recently admitted that the first 8 years she worked on the New York-based show were more tense than some might think. As a soap actress, Ripa admitted that she initially wasn't looking for another job. Her contract on All My Children still had over a year left, and she had also considered giving up working to raise her kids. In fact, she mused that this might have been what got her the job. As she put it, "I think part of the reason I was attractive in any way is because I was the one person not pushing to get an audition for that show." She soon found she earned an audience response. However, Ripa admitted that actually getting the job soon came with pressure. She shared, "When there's something at stake, far greater pressure is on you when you are a co-host versus when you're just a fill-in person. I felt terrified." Ripa admitted that she finally pushed back these fears around maybe the 8th year. She continued, "It took me a while to not feel terrified. It really took a long time to get comfortable." As the outlet noted, while Ripa had her nerves, she felt that one co-host in particular might have had an easier time of things. She admitted that she was surprised by how her husband Mark was comfortable and good almost immediately when he joined the show. She joked, "Where it took me 8 years to become comfortable, it took him maybe 8 days." Recently on the show, Kelly also celebrated her 25th anniversary as a co-host. Guests included Art Moore, David Muir, and her own children. Have you been following this story? What is your reaction to Kelly Ripa's recent share? Make sure you come back to TV Shows Ace for all the latest TV and celebrity news. When the stage lights warm up and a red live bulb flicks on, the world that Kelly Ripa steps into looks, for most viewers, effortless. A familiar voice, the punchline landed, that practiced, natural rhythm between hosts that makes the messy, unpredictable news cycle feel, at least for an hour, entirely human and containable. But in a recent candid conversation about the arc of her career, Ripa peeled back that gloss and told a story that surprises because it's the opposite of the image many of us have carried for years. The woman who has been one of daytime television's steady presences for a quarter-century confessed that it took her nearly a decade to stop feeling terrified every time she went on air. It's easy to reduce a career like Ripa's to a tidy timeline. A soap opera actress becomes a guest co-host. The guest spot turns into a job. The job becomes an institution. But the messy, human interior, the doubts, the performances behind the scenes, the nights spent second-guessing, is what this story is about. Kelly was, by her own account, not even actively angling for the job. She still had time left on her contract at All My Children and was thinking about stepping back to raise her children. The audience, however, decided differently. They reacted, and the rest, for the public, looked like destiny. For Kelly, it felt more like being thrust into a role whose stakes were heavier than she'd imagined. What makes Ripa's confession arresting is the contradiction it presents. A person who seems to be entirely at home in public, saying that publicness itself used to terrify her. When there's something at stake, a far greater pressure is on you when you are a co-host versus when you're just a fill-in person, she told reporters, admitting that the first 8 years were tougher for her than any headline made them appear. The first years were a pressure cooker, millions of viewers watching, a live broadcast where there's no take two, and the invisible weight of being the person, not a guest, not a temporary substitution, but a steward of a show with decades of history and for many fans, a kind of familial presence. There's a peculiar cruelty to live television. Mistakes are forever immediate, and every moment is a two-way conversation with an audience whose loyalty is fickle and whose attention is absolute. Kelly's trajectory from soap actor to daytime titan meant that she had to learn, in public, how to become comfortable with being watched while she learned. The part that surprises many readers is not just that she was nervous, it's the timeline. Maybe the 8th year. It took me a while to not feel terrified, she said. Think of that number for a moment. 8 years of consciously bracing for each show, of carrying an undercurrent of fear, even as the broadcast smile and rapid banter created the impression of ease. If the first years were about survival, the middle years were about shaping a persona that could absorb the unpredictability of the format. Kelly learned to make missteps into material, to let curiosity carry her through awkward segues, and to lean on a trusted teleprompter when the room felt like it was tilting. Yet even the process of learning demanded reinvention, keeping a signature voice while adapting to shifting co-host dynamics and evolving audience tastes. Over time, the terror didn't vanish overnight. It eroded, inch by inch, the way a shoreline is reshaped by persistent tides. By the 8th year, the fear's edges had dulled, replaced by a steadier, confident one. That came from countless hours on set, a deeper knowledge of how to steer conversations, and an acceptance that not everything would always be flawless. There is also an intimate irony in the presence of family on the set. For much of Kelly's public life, Mark Consuelos, actor, husband, eventual co-host, was an object of audience curiosity and admiration. When Mark joined as her co-host, many viewers were thrilled by the chemistry that was already evident in their personal lives. What Kelly told reporters she found surprising was how quickly Mark seemed to inhabit the role. Where it took me 8 years to become comfortable, it took him maybe 8 days, she joked, pointing to a difference in temperament and the unpredictable alchemy of comfort and performative ease. The contrast is instructive. One person's slow-burning resilience against another's immediate, seemingly effortless presence. Mark's ease is not just a throwaway observation. It reveals how different people map onto public-facing roles. Some hosts are natural ringmasters, quick on their feet, unfazed by microphones and unpredictable live audiences. Others grow into those roles through repetition and a long apprenticeship in the arena of public scrutiny. Kelly's strength, by the way, wasn't that she was an immediate waif of discomfort. It was that she stayed. She kept showing up, learning to convert vulnerability into a kind of connective power. Over 25 years, that persistence created a relationship with viewers that runs deeper than a transient headline or viral clip. The 25th anniversary episode itself was, by all accounts, less an index of nostalgia than an offering of gratitude. Friends, colleagues, and family turned up to mark the achievement, Art Moore and David Muir among them, while the show paused briefly to underline how the small, daily acts of hosting add up to a life's work. On that day, the stage that had once been a theater of private anxiety became a platform of shared affection. There's a warmth in that reversal. A woman who once dreaded being the person found, over time, that the people she met and the audience she served became part of a scaffolding that steadied her. It's tempting to treat Kelly's timeline as a morality tale about perseverance, and in one sense it is exactly that. But it's more instructive to read it as a study in the long arc of craft. The art of hosting is not merely about being likable on camera. It's about listening, improvising, and holding a space where the public can find something familiar and reassuring amid a chaotic world. Kelly's confession that she was terrified is not a weakness. It's a humanizing detail that reframes her career as a sustained effort to master a complicated, live, relational form of storytelling. The long apprenticeship she described is the kind of patient, often invisible labor that audiences rarely witness. She also spoke about retirement and longevity in the business, an inevitable conversation for anyone who's been on the airwaves for decades. Kelly told interviewers she had asked Oprah Winfrey for advice about when to step away, a sign of how seriously she contemplates the arc of her public life. Oprah, whose own exit after 25 years has become a reference point, counseled Kelly to think less in terms of arbitrary milestones and more in terms of what feels right for her voice and her family. That Kelly would even pose the question publicly is itself revealing of the pressures that accompany being a long-time